Okay, so this is it's quite a lot of fun actually once you get into this. GameCube controller is always a bit of a weird one. Some people say it's one of the best controllers ever made. I think its biggest weak point being just the one analog stick, which is kind of bizarre because obviously PS2 and Xbox have two. That's why I've been looking for certain ports on PS2 and Xbox, like time splitters and stuff like that, just because it's got the two analog sticks. But GameCube actually has, in some regards, even though we're playing a Game Boy game or advanced game, has superior performance in some regards over the PS2. What the hell? Okay, that was new. In some games, which is kind of weird. So this game's got reasonably good reviews. So looking at a Metacritic, you're talking 75 out of 100. Publication All Games, never heard of them. 3.5 out of 5. Electronic Gaming Monthly was 6.5 out of 10, so they weren't, well, I would say they're not quite as favourable on it. Your Eurogamer was 6 out of 10. It's actually surprisingly difficult to play this game and look at the computer at the same time. Right, so let's break for a sec. So Game Informer gave it 7.5 out of 10. GamePro 4 out of 5. GameSpot 7.3 out of 10. I'd be curious to know. I'm surprised you've got all these reviews from publications, but I'd be quite curious to see what the actual consensus on this is when it comes to like YouTubers and stuff. What the general opinion on this is. But sadly, that's not listed. GameSpy 78 out of 100. GameZone 8.3 out of 10. IGN 8.5 out of 10. IGN have had some interesting reviews. Like they gave Alien Isolation some, I think, was it Ryan McCaffrey gave it like 6 out of 10 or something. I can't remember what the score was, but that's shockingly low for such a good game. But hey, everyone's opinion is different. So Nintendo Power 8 out of 10, and Play gave it 8 out of 10. So generally pretty favourable reviews. And I just dropped my controller. Well, I got away with that surprisingly. So yeah, pretty favourable reviews in generally. I could imagine when this came out, like it's been quite an interesting and exciting time to have a game based on such a popular character. Damn it! I was always more Sonic, if I'm honest, Sonic and Mario. But the thing was, funnily enough, with Sega, I kind of forgot they existed, and that's slightly tragic to admit. But I did sort of, I don't know, I tried to transition from the Mega Drive, and I got a Mega Drive quite late in its life cycle. I think it was about 96 when I got one. Obviously, my parents weren't that well off, so you know, getting any console that time period was just amazing. But yeah, so again, as Mario and Sonic were the ones, and after that, other than Super Mario 64, which was one I was always curious about because I had a 64 and yet I never owned it, ever. I played it numerous times, but just never actually ever owned it for some bizarre reason. But that was always one that absolutely fascinated me to this day. But everything else platform-wise, after the Mega Drive and the Super Nintendo, I don't really recall ever playing that much of. Unfortunately. Oh, now I've got to travel back. Fantastic. Break. Oh, that's evil. Evil, evil, evil. Stop. Stop, stop. As I said, some of the platforming games on Saturn look quite interesting, and it's just the prices. The Saturn is such a fascinating system. I played quite a lot, and I played games that actually not a lot of people like. One of my all-time favorites was, and this will be controversial because people hate this game with a passion from everything I've seen, and that is Sonic R. It might just be the music on it, because the actual game there isn't a lot of levels to it. But I don't know. I just found it kind of fun. Even though it, there's a very lack of levels. I've got a PC version of it, but I've never actually tried to get it running. I suspect I would have quite an issue trying to get it running on Windows 10 and 11. I imagine it could be done though. I don't know. Is every time I go over that green thing, I think I can explore down there, but obviously I can't. So. Yeah, so as I said, back to the topic of like Game Boy and bits like that, and Nintendo stuff in general. It's very hard to find the real deal games because, damn it, because there's just so many fakes about. I mean, you look at the prices of, for instance, like the Pokemon games as an instance, like they are supremely expensive now. I mean, when I got mine a couple of years back, I got a copy of, was it Red? Because my one stopped working. Gold, and I think the other one was Sapphire, and they were about £23–24 just for the cartridges. If you want the boxes and them and the manuals now, you are talking. Well, I've seen a complete copy of Pokemon Red, and it was £169, which is absolutely insane. So you really do have to be prepared to pay ridiculous sums of money for some of this stuff. As I said, I'm eyeing up Sega Saturn at the moment, and Sega Saturn and a region-free Dreamcast looks quite interesting to me as well. And graphically, it's quite nice as well. Frame rate is, I presume the frame rate is about 30 frames a second. It's very smooth. There's not really any hitching or anything. I have no idea how to get up there, even with the double jump. It's definitely easier than the PlayStation games, that's for sure. It definitely has less. It's definitely less difficult. But I think this game was actually targeted at younger gamers anyway, according to the stuff I've sort of read about it on Wikipedia. I mean, I was looking at Resident Evil 1 and Resident Evil Director's Cut on PS1. I mean, that goes for about, I think it was 50 quid. I was just like, that's, I don't know if I'd pay that. That's a lot of money for a PS1 game, but clearly people are prepared to pay it. So. I'd be quite curious how much this game actually is. I don't think this is a particularly... Well, last time I looked it was a particularly expensive game. Let's have a quick look and just see how much this game actually is on eBay at the moment, because I imagine there will be people that will be quite curious about this. As I said, Game Boy Advance games have a tendency to be, some of them, rather expensive. And, oh yeah, this is dirt cheap. It's like £9 for the cartridge and that. And if you want the box and the manual and everything, you're talking about £30. So, not stupidly expensive in the grand scheme of things. It sort of follows the same level design as the PS1 games as well. It's pretty much almost identical. It's actually quite impressive what they've been able to do actually on a Game Boy Advance, considering that Crash Bandicoot was sort of Naughty Dog's first sort of foray into 3D platforming. Well, I think they did do some other stuff beforehand though as well, interestingly enough. But from what Naughty Dog these days, I think they sold the rights to Crash Bandicoot, I think to... What was it? I don't remember. Was it, I think Activision currently holds the rights. Is it Activision? Yeah, it is, because they've... What's really weird is that obviously Activision is now owned by Microsoft, which is weird, to say the least. Crash Bandicoot was always a mascot for PlayStation. We just need to see what Microsoft or Activision are going to put out now that it's owned by them. I think a lot of people have been talking about the Transformers games, which again I don't think I've ever played one. Because I picked up a PlayStation 2 not that long ago, I've been slowly collecting systems and trying to find sort of underrated games. I'm looking at one on PS2 at the moment called, because I'm more of a survival horror type of gamer, there's one called Cold Fear I've been looking at that looks quite interesting. It came out about the same time, or a couple of months after Resident Evil 4 came out. So, but it's set on like a boat, and like it's a typical type of thing, very similar to Resident Evil, but it looks really fun, and it's got that survival horror sort of staple. So that's definitely one I'm hoping to do a video on at some point. Oh no, not this. I might have problems with this. Alright, I can shoot, okay. Hey, I made it. Cool. That gives me such bad memories of Sonic the Hedgehog 2 on the Master System. That it was the hang gliding section. Oh, I hated that with a passion even to this day. Absolutely evil level design. Evil. Absolutely evil. It's another one I've actually picked up, but until I can get a Master System converter for my Mega Drive, I'd like to do a video on that, because the Master System is a fascinating system. Again, like the Sega Saturn, and the games in the UK especially are dirt cheap, the majority of them. It's one of those systems that wasn't very popular in what killed me? Oh, you kidding me? Didn't put me back here. It's one of the systems that's not that popular anywhere else. I'm not sure why exactly, but we got more games, probably one of the only times in the UK than they did in the US. In fact, the system was discontinued, whereas in my experience, and this is just mine, obviously everyone's is different, the Sega Saturn was more the Sega Master System was more popular than the and the game has crashed. Fantastic. Was more popular than the NES.